So we wanted to seek, one second, we wanted to seek everybody's blessings and good wishes so that we can share some nectar from the first part, half of the second chapter today of the Bhagavad Gita. And we wanted to welcome everybody, of course, but especially Puna Mataji, who is going to be reciting the Sanskrit. And in terms of the English, we have some youngsters here who I would love them to participate. Now, let's have a look. We have, who is this? Sorry, is that Sayan?
It's Shane Prabhuji. I was yesterday.
Thank you so much. So maybe what we can do, 10 verses, you can, the first 10 you can recite, the English. So after Puna Mataji has read the English, the Sanskrit, you can recite the English. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And then your sister can do another 10. And then we have Shavi. Would she like to recite 10 as well? Fantastic. Very good. Yes. She's always keen. Thank you so much, Shavi. It's nice to see you. Okay, so please take it away. Yeah? Move it closer.
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः संजय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः.
Sanjay said, seeing Arjun full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan, Krishna, spoke the following words.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्ट अस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy.
Shanti. Klaibyam asma gamah partha naitavyayupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvotishtha parantapa.
O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy.
Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamaham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana.
Arjuna said, O killer of demons, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship?
Gurun hatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum vekshamapi haloke hatvartha kamanstu guru nihaiva bhunjiya bhogan rudira pratigdhan.
It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood.
न चैत्विद्मः कतरन्नो गरियो यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषमास्ते अवस्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः.
Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield.
कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेतः यत् श्रेयः स्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्.
Now I am confused about my duty, and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple, and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
नहि प्रपश्यामि ममाप्नुद्यात् यच्छोकमुच्छोषणमिन्द्रियाणाम् अव्याप्य भूमाव असपत्नं रुद्धं राज्यं सुराणामपि चाधिपत्यम्.
I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty just like the demigods in heaven.
संजय उवाच एवमुक्त्वा ऋषिकेशं गुडाकेशः परन्तपः न्ययोत्स्य इति गोविन्दम् उक्त्वा तृष्णिं बभूवः.
Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjun, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent.
तमुवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्नीव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः.
O descendants of Bharat, at that time Krishna, smiling, in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjun.
Okay, so we can take a little breather here. Puna Mataji. Actually, I forgot the order myself because I would do a summary first and then we would read the verses. So apologies for that. But let's take a break here because it's an appropriate space to just talk about what is happening in this chapter. Is that okay, Puna Mataji?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Sorry for the
Okay.
background noise. Today,
Oh, no,
the
that's
boys
okay.
are really
You've
mischievous.
got two young twins and it's a tight space. So I do understand. Don't worry. No, don't worry.
They want to hang around me, so sorry about that.
Good. Okay, as they should. So this chapter is entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. And it is exactly that. It's summarizing the whole of the Gita. So now let me just open this up. Okay. So what's happening in this chapter? Summary of the second chapter. Second chapter is a succinct overview of the entire philosophy. Arjun approaches Krishna in a mood of humility and desperation, prompting Krishna to present the most fundamental aspects of spiritual wisdom regarding our identity and our duties in life. So this is, if one can simply understand chapter number 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, then you will understand Krishna's presentation of the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjun. And because in this chapter, Krishna gives the summary of the philosophy. So Krishna then explains the practical application of such wisdom and concludes by delineating the symptoms of one who has fully realized such truths. So in this way, Krishna summarizes the spiritual journey from beginning to the end. And then he goes into a lot of detail in the rest of the Gita, which is also very important for us to understand, especially, for example, he doesn't really talk about the 3 modes of material nature that we live under. And in the second chapter, he hints at it, but doesn't describe it in detail. But he does, especially in the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th chapter. So that aspect of the philosophy is very important. So that's why he describes that in some detail, but he doesn't touch upon it too much in the second chapter. So of course, in one sense, there is no end to the spiritual journey, because this is the point at which real life begins. So now, what is this chapter? How does it fit? Or what's the content? We can split it into 5 areas. First 10 verses, which we just recited, is where Arjun surrenders onto Krishna. And he's saying, especially in text number 7, Karpanya dosha, he basically saying, I really don't know what to do now to take away the grief that I am feeling. And I am surrendering onto you. I am now your student. Please instruct me. Please guide me. That's a very essential part of the Bhagavad Gita. If he hadn't done that, Krishna would not have carried on, because he will give knowledge only to somebody who wants the knowledge. He won't force himself. He won't force the Bhagavad Gita on anybody. The second aspect is 11 to 30. And these are the 2 aspects that we are focusing on today, because these are really fundamental aspects of the Bhagavad Gita. If we can understand these 2 aspects, then we'll go a very long way to be able to live in this world in a Krishna conscious way. And then we'll see this next week. He talks about Swadharma, our duty whilst we're in this body, in this world. And he also talks about Sanatan Dharma, Nishkam Karma. He talks about the duties of the soul. This is quite important. How to live, how to act. And then he gives practical examples of those who act in Sanatan Dharma. How do they actually live? What do they do? How do they conduct themselves? This is the practical application of putting the philosophy into practice. So this is why this is called the contents of Bhagavad Gita summarized, because it's effectively giving the whole philosophy of the Vedic philosophy, which is like billions and billions of verses, into like 72 verses, I think, something like that. It's quite amazing. So let's take the first 10 verses. Yeah, let's take this. Now, determined not to fight, but simultaneously torn and confused, Arjuna approaches Krishna. I am in dire need of guidance. He humbly submits. Please enlighten me so that I can mitigate my miserable condition. Now, we live in this material world. Some people are not perhaps worried too much about living in this material world. They're quite happy to continue life with all the challenges that we face without questioning the purpose of our existence. And you could argue that they're living in some sort of ignorance. You know what it says, there's 2 types of people who are happy. Those who are totally ignorant and those who are in full knowledge. So ignorance is bliss. That's quite a common saying. Now, this life, this world, is actually full of difficulties, as we all know. And we're going through that challenging phase right now because of this coronavirus. So if one has some discriminating power, then one can understand that actually I don't belong in this world. I need help. I need help to understand why these difficulties are coming our way, and what is, who actually am I? Because my body keeps changing. We'll see that next section of the Bhagavad Gita. And what is my duty? What am I supposed to be doing while I'm here in this world? And who's in charge of this world anyway? These are important questions. And it's said that if one does not make these inquiries in one's life, then one has actually wasted one's life. If one doesn't make these inquiries, then one is simply a two-legged animal. This is how it's described in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran. The animal eats, sleeps, mates, and defends. And if the human being does exactly the same, eats, sleeps, mates, and defends, then there's no difference between the animals and human beings. Now, if we consider that there's a scientific project that's given the conclusion that we are the only species, if we disappeared, this earth would be a better place. We're the only species in that category. Any other species of life disappears from this world will make a difference, will cause harm to this world. We're the only species that this world will benefit if we're not here. So we're not here to improve the environment. So what are we here for? Of course, we shouldn't make it really bad like we have. But the reason that we are here is to gain spiritual knowledge, is to gain the higher values of life, the higher purpose of life. So these inquiries that Arjuna is making from Krishna, taking shelter of Krishna, is very important. We have to understand we are in ignorance, and we have to get knowledge to understand who we are, what is our duty in this world, how am I related to one who has created this world? Fundamental questions. So through Arjun's example, we learn the first fundamental step in spirituality. One must approach a guru who comes in an authentic lineage of teachers and who has mastered the spiritual art. This is very, very important. If one can find such a guru, then one will be on the spiritual path. This is fundamentally important to our spiritual life, spiritual journey. Most things in life require guidance. If one wants to become a doctor or an accountant, you're not going to be able to read some books in a library and gain the certificates. You have to go to an authorized college where those subject matters are taught and pass their examinations in order to qualify as a doctor and or an accountant or any profession. So similarly for spiritual life, in fact, even more so for spiritual life, it requires guidance and instructions under a qualified teacher, and the spiritual discipline is no different. So we need this spiritual teachings to be given to us. It's fundamentally important. Fundamentally important. We have to learn. Sometimes there's a thing. There's often when we go on the street, somebody will say to us, "Okay, explain spirituality in 5 minutes." Well, if you want to become a doctor, you're going to be doing it in 5 minutes? No. If you want to become a spiritualist, it's going to take a lifetime of study. Yesterday, we were discussing about the Bhagavad Gita, and Arvind very nicely said, after he finishes the Bhagavad Gita, he starts all over again. Absolutely the right attitude. This spiritual knowledge, there is no end to the learning of it. In fact, the more you read, the more you understand, the more you realize how little you know. But somewhere we have to start the journey. And this is the perfect mood of Arjuna. My dear Lord Krishna, I am in ignorance and I am in miserable condition. Please assist me. One may argue that everything they require for their spirituality is contained within. And whilst this may be true, we still require help to reawaken that pure inner consciousness. We are in darkness, generally speaking. There are certain individuals who, due to their past karma, may have some elevated spirituality level already. But even those, even the great saints, even the great sages, they also require learning in spirituality, because there is no end to it. As the saying goes, one who accepts himself as a guru accepts a fool for a disciple. So this is interesting saying. Now, the Lord himself sets the standard. Although he is the absolute truth, all-knowing, still he accepts a guru when he descends to earth. This is the case for Ramachandra. He accepted Vishisht Muni. He accepted Vishwamitra as gurus. This is true of Krishna. He went to the school of Sandipani Muni in Avanti. This is true of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He took Ishwara Puri as his guru. So even the Lord sets that standard. Of course, God needs no guru. He is the guru. But when he sets the standard, it means there's a purpose behind that. Very important to find a bona fide spiritual master in a bona fide sampradaya who can take us to the spiritual world. So I think
That's a question.
Okay, yes. Actually, if you don't mind, if you could put your question on the chat, we'll take those at the end at 8:15, if that's okay. If you don't mind, please. That was a request made, and I thought it was not a bad idea. We'll take the questions all in one go, if that's okay. So now let's go to the Bhagavad Gita, the rest of the verses. Shayan, what's your sister's name?
Tiana.
Tiana, fantastic. Okay, so text number 11.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Pragnavadanshya Bhashase Gatasun Agatasunshcha Nanushocanti Panditaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
Natvevaham jatu nasam Natvam ne me janadhipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayamataha param.
Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Dehi nosmin yatha dehe Kaumaram yauvanam jara Tatha dehantara praptir Dhiras tatra na muhyati.
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkadaha Agamapayino nitya Sanstitikshasva Bharata.
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from the sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Yam hina vyathayanyete Yam hina vyathayanyete Purusham Purusharshabha Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Somruttatvaya Kalpate.
O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation.
नासतो विद्यते भावो नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तस्त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः.
Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
अविनाशी तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वमिदं ततम् विनाशम् अव्ययस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्मतुर्मर्हति.
That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
अन्तवन्त इमे देहा नित्यस्योक्तः शरीरिणः अनाशीनो प्रमेयस्य तस्माद्युद्धस्य भारत.
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharat.
य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते.
Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain.
न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन्नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्माने शरीरे.
For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
You read so well. Thank you so much. Excellent. So now it's going to be Shavi reading the English.
Are we doing the summary of the chapters, Prabhuji?
Uh,
Of the shlokas from 11 to 20 or?
yes, no, you can go all the way to 30 because this is all part of the same subject.
वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं य एनमज्जमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घातयति हन्तिकम्. Tiana, if she would want to carry on, Shaivi is coming in a minute.
O Bharata, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill?
वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्याति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यायानि संयाति नवानि देहि. 22. Yeah.
As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः.
The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
अच्छेद्यो मदह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतः अचलयोऽयं सनातनः.
The individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, presented everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
अव्यक्तोऽयम् अचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्यम् उच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि.
It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body.
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि.
If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed.
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्ध्रुवं जन्म मृत्यस्य च तस्मादपि हार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तं ध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना.
All created beings are manifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation?
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनमाश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्.
Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing.
Okay. Again, read it again.
Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all.
देहि नित्यमवध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being.
Jai. Thank you so much, Puna Mataji. Beautifully read. Tough verses, some of them. And
Yeah.
they are tough verses.
Yeah, these are a little difficult ones. Yeah, I'll agree.
Thank you so much. Beautifully read, though. And Shavi, thank you as always. Now, I wanted to ask the children, would anybody like to answer this question? What is the first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjun? This whole 21 verses that we read, it all points to one thing. What was that one thing that Krishna is saying to Arjun? Not you, Shavi. Anybody like to give us an idea? How about Mokshita or Navneet, Shayan? Was it Tanya?
Tiana.
Tiana, beautiful name, Tiana. Who would like to have a go? What was the one thing that is the theme throughout these 20 verses?
Prabhuji, is it to say that the soul is indestructible?
Yeah, you got it. Very good. Well done. Thank you so much. So let's just talk through what Krishna is describing here. He begins the teaching by giving him the most fundamental understanding of spiritual life. This is the most important. Krishna starts at the very root of spiritualism, spiritual life. As the driver operates a car, or as a bird lives in a cage, we, the spirit soul, are similarly utilizing this body. So just like when the car is being driven, it's being driven by a driver. We have a body, and we always say, my body. So who is that my? Who is that driver driving this body? This is what Krishna is explaining to Arjun, that you are not the body, you are the driver of the body. And what is this driver? It's the spirit soul. Although living within the body, we are simultaneously different from it, just like the driver is different from the car, temporarily operating it to perform activities. What are these activities? Fulfilling our desires and interacting with the world around us. So this is a key lesson. If we can understand this, just this one lesson, then we will be able to live in this world without anxiety, without any difficulties. Because we will understand that whatever's happening to this body of ours, it's not us, it's the body. Okay, this distinction is the first teaching that the Guru imparts. At every moment, our body is changing. We do not have the same body that we did when we were children, but we still remain the same person. Let me give you an example of this. This is a really wonderful painting where the child is growing into a young boy, then young man, mature man, old man, and then finally, very old man dying. Now, the body's changed, but the soul has remained the same. We still remember what happened in our childhood, although we don't have the same body now. So it's very easy to understand. We preach this to school children, age of 7 to onwards, and they easily get it. I asked them 3 questions. One, do you have the same, what was the 3 questions? The same body as you were a baby. Do you have the same body that you had when you were a baby? And they always say, no. If anybody says yes, of course, we have a good laugh and we say, oh, you got a baby body then. Second question is, do you remember what happened in the past? Have you changed? And they always say, yes, I remember what's happening. I haven't changed. My body has changed. And the third question is, then who are you? And of course, that's a really tricky question. But we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita that we are the spirit soul. And the spirit soul, Krishna explains, as being indestructible and eternal, never dies, never dies. And he explains that in the first series of verses. He says, Natveva ham jatunasam, never was there a time, he says to Arjun, that I have not been here, nor in the future will we cease to exist, nor you nor all the kings. So he's saying to Arjun that you are, not only I'm eternal, but you are, and everybody before you is eternal. We will never die. Fundamental teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the first lesson. Often I ask people, especially our Hindu people, What is the first lesson that Krishna taught to Arjun? And I would say 9 out of 10 times, the person does not know the answer. So we should not be in that position. We should know the answer. What is the first instruction Krishna says to Arjun? Can I ask, what is the first instruction? Navnit, are you there? Navnit Krishna, can you hear me?
Prabhuji is asking, can you hear me?
What is the, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjun?
To like give up his fear and fight.
That's there, definitely. How about Mokshita? Is she there?
Yes.
Mokshita, what is the first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjun?
That you're the soul?
Very good. Thank you so much. We are not the body. We are spirit soul. The first instruction. Anybody ask you, or if somebody's talking to you about the Gita, you can ask them, what is the first instruction? Do you know? What is it that is not changing? It is important to realize our true identity as spirit soul. Otherwise, we will continuously undergo the process of reincarnation, accept unnatural material bodies, and the subsequent sufferings and distresses of life in this material world. One thing we always recommend, if you say something to yourself enough times, eventually we'll realize it and understand it. So at least once a day, perhaps first thing in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, to say to yourself, I am not this body, I am pure spirit soul, servant of the Supreme Lord. Das Nudas, servant of the Supreme Lord. I am not this body, I am pure spirit soul. Every single day, at least remind yourself once in the day, I am not this body, I am pure spirit soul. Because the problem we have is this identification with this body is causing us to lose our awareness of who we really are. We are thinking we're this body. And how absurd it is if somebody is driving a car and somebody crashes into them, they're going to say, you hit me. But then, of course, they'll realize you've only hit the car, you haven't hit me. So in the same way, we need to understand that we are the driver of this body. The soul is the driver. It is not, the body is not the soul. So we need to understand that body is material. And what happens with this body, with the soul, is that when it leaves this body, it gets another body. We know that as, what is that called? Anybody like to answer? What is that process called when the soul leaves a body and it accepts another body?
Reincarnation?
Excellent. Reincarnation. So we believe in reincarnation. We believe in, what type of body will it get? The soul. What type of body will it get? What determines what type of body? Yes, Sayan.
Is it its karma?
That's one aspect. Yes. What is karma?
Is it action, Prabhu?
Yes, it is action. So good actions lead to good reactions. Every action has a reaction. So we believe in karma. But there's 2 other factors. What do you think they might be?
What do you remember at the time of death, Prabhuji?
Sorry?
What do you remember at the time of death?
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good, Arvind. What you remember at the time of death is going to be the your destination for the next birth, next body.
Is the third one your spiritual endeavor?
Yes, you could say that. You could say that. The 3 things are karma, desires. What do we want? So this is where what your father said comes into play. Desires is, what you will probably remember at the end of your life. I should have done this. Somebody interviewed a whole load of people who were about to die. And the question was something like, what are your aspirations? What would you have done differently if you weren't going to die? What would you have done differently in your life? So they all had different aspirations. So those desires would come at the end of the life. And the third aspect, what did you say, Sayan?
Spiritual endeavor.
Yeah. So the third aspect is consciousness. It's consciousness, depending on our level of consciousness. So again, you can link it to spiritual endeavor. So the more conscious you are spiritually, the better body one will get in our next life. The less conscious you are spiritually and more conscious you are materially, your body will be attracted to the particular type of body like that. So if one's consciousness is that of a pig, likes to eat all the time, whether it's tasty food or not tasty, or whether it's clean or unclean food, then that consciousness is that of a pig, then the body one gets in his next life will be that like a pig, all other things being equal. So that person also, the karma will be, the actions will have been, they just eat anything and everything. So that will fit in with what type of body that they're destined to get. So karma, desire, they want to just eat. That's all they want to do. So when all those three things align, the body one gets will be quite easy to determine. But of course, everybody has different desires, loads of different desires. Our consciousness sometimes is clear, sometimes it's dull. Our karma, sometimes we do good things, sometimes we do bad things. So there's a whole mixture of things. I'm just taking a very simplistic example to give you an idea of what can happen at the time of death. Okay, so just one more thing to describe the characteristics of the soul. This is what Arjun was explained by Krishna. What are the characteristics of the soul? Now, Sayan, why don't you read these out, the characteristics on this side?
Eternal, changeless, indestructible, imperishable, immeasurable, neither the slayer nor slain, no birth, no death, has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being, unborn, ever existing, primeval, immutable.
Brilliant. Mokshita, if you're there, would you like to read this side?
Yes. Cannot be cut into pieces, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by wind, unbreakable, insoluble, neither burned or dried, everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same, invisible, inconceivable, amazing. Look, see, hear this.
Amazing. Amazing is the last one. So these are the characteristics of the soul. This is what we are. This is what we are. We're not this body. So we need to understand this very important point. At this moment in time, we are this very little spiritual spark, which is pervading, the consciousness of which is pervading the whole body. This very little spiritual spark can control an ant or an elephant. It's very powerful. So it, at the moment, the size of this soul is described in one of the Upanishads is 1/10,000 of a tip of a hair. If you take a tip of a hair, cut it into 10,000 pieces, that's how big the soul is. It's undetectable. When we were in the spiritual world, we had a full spiritual body, but because of the mode of ignorance in this material world, our soul, we have shrunk to very little. And as we grow spiritually, become more spiritually enlightened, the soul will again reconnect with the Supreme Soul and regain its original spiritual form, which is very important to understand. So I wanted to stop there and take the questions. And let's go to Sonia first. Sonia, would you like to ask your question? Maybe she's just gone away somewhere. Anybody else? Anybody's got a question? Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhu, I've got question.
Yes, Kaushalya.
You know, this spirit soul, when it's combined, connects with super spiritual soul,
Yes.
does it remain same size or?
No, it will regain the original size. So whatever we were in the spiritual world, that will manifest. But it will not manifest probably in this world. Because in this world, whilst we're in ignorance, it won't increase, it won't manifest. And as we develop spiritually, and we take a spiritual master, and we fully become connected to God through chanting the holy names, through reading about him, in time, we will again regain our spiritual consciousness. And then when we are hopefully on the way to the spiritual world, then that body manifests itself, enters into the spiritual world. So at the moment, we will be covered, and we just have to regain our spiritual consciousness, connect with the Supreme Lord. And the easiest way to do that is by chanting the holy names.
So it's more conscious when it gets in the spiritual world, the soul.
Oh, it's completely conscious. It's known to be Sat Chit Ananda. Sat, the complete eternal, Sat Chit,
Ananda.
and Anand, happy, Sat Chit Ananda. That's its nature. That's the nature of the soul. Sat Chit Ananda. And that's also the nature of Krishna. Sat Chit Ananda, but for him, there's another word, Vigraha. He is the all-powerful. So the spirit soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Just like the fire, there are sparks that come out of the fire. The spark is the same as the fire in quality, but not in quantity. The fire is huge. So Krishna is unlimited. And we are limited, but we are also a spark of the same spirituality that Krishna has. The same spiritual form Krishna has, we're a spark of it. A tiny, tiny spark. And because we're so tiny, sometimes we can come under the control of material nature. But when we reconnect with Krishna again, through bhakti, then we can again re-establish ourselves with the Supreme Lord in our spiritual form. Does that make sense, Kaushalya?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sonia.
Yeah.
What was your question, Sonia?
Oh, I don't have a question. I was just listening to all this interesting Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. Oh, is that what you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I was just digesting everything what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What do you think of Krishna's first instruction? Does it make sense?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
And why do you say definitely? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Because it makes sense, like it is very interesting and very deep, like when we think.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Poonam Mataji. Usually have a question.
Yeah, maybe it is not very appropriate to ask, when little children are here. So I had a little discussion with Bimal. No, I mean, just, the beauty of Bhagavad Gita is, whenever I mean, many people would have said is, whenever we read it again and again, we view it from different directions. We have different set of questions that might not have occurred. So
Yes.
at this moment, I was just wondering, that I understand the purpose of having, the concept of soul, that let us not focus on the, body itself, because Krishna wants to say that it is itself changing, and, I mean, it is nashwant, it's going to be destroyed eventually. So focus on the soul. So I was just wondering, why, I mean, soul, why it's such an abstract thing, and it's such a difficult thing as well to understand.
Mm.
So I understand the purpose of it, absolutely, but just on a silly side, I have this question: why do we want to get into that intricacy in the first place?
Which we cannot see.
Which we cannot see. Yeah.
Like Krishna said to Arjun, some see him as amazing, some think of him as amazing, some cannot understand him at all. So actually, it's not that the body is irrelevant. It is relevant. The body is important because we're living in it. And if we don't do our swadharma, our temporary duties, then we're neglectful. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you got to do both. You got to do your swadharma. Your swadharma at the moment, Arjun, is you are in the body of a Kshatriya. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to do your duty. Because on the other side, you have people who are criminals. And as a Kshatriya, you're meant to uphold the law. If you don't do that, you're derelict of your duty. And that will have an impact on your Sanatan Dharma. It's not that this body is irrelevant. It is relevant. But where we go wrong is we take the body as all in all. That's all there is. And that's our problem. We have to understand that we are more than the body. And if we simply work on the body leaf platform, then we miss the complete point of life. It's not that the soul is a concept. The soul is a reality. That's who we are. That's why it's important. If it was a concept, a theoretical position that Krishna was taking, then who cares? Doesn't make a difference then. But this is who we really are. This is why Krishna's first point, he's hammering it into Arjuna. 20 verses, I don't think he's answered one question with 18 verses, but he's never spent 20 verses on one point. That you are not the body, you are the soul. So it's such an important point, but it's not a theoretical concept. This is actual fact. This is who we are. But if we live our lives ignoring the body, it's just like the cage in the bird. If there's a bird in the cage, but you don't care for the bird, you're just looking after the cage, the bird is going to die, right? That's ridiculous. So if we simply look after the body without understanding that we are beyond the body, then we miss the whole point of life. And that's why Bhagavad Gita is such a fundamental, of fundamental importance to those who are on the spiritual path, and especially this first teaching of Krishna, that we are the spirit soul. So it doesn't mean we neglect our duties. You, for example, have so many duties. And if you neglect those duties, you would be in breach of being having this human body. So it's not that we give up the idea that we give up this world thinking that this body is temporary, useless, no good. No, we live in this body, we utilize this body, we continue to fulfill our duties which have been given to us due to our body. So you, for example, born in a Brahminical family, you have children, you have a husband, you have a job, you got so many different things going on at the same time. All those duties you have to conduct. But at the same time, what Krishna advises to Arjuna is fight and remember me. And this is sometimes a little difficult to grasp. How do we multitask like that? That's a tough one. So Rohit, I don't know if he's here, he had the same issue. Why do we have to do the same? You know, I can't work and at the same time think of Krishna. But no, you have to. If you don't work, you're going to be neglecting your swadharma. And you got all sorts of karmas which will impact you if you do that, if you neglect your duty. So even today when we're reading the Bhagavatam, Priyavrat, he was advised by Brahma, you don't want to take up the kingdom, you just want to go to the forest. But that's ridiculous. Krishna's given you a body, he's given you things to do. Do them, get it done. And Priyavrat, he had to listen to Brahma, his grandfather. Okay, I will listen to you. I will become a ruler. He ruled for 1.1 billion years. After which he renounced the kingdom. This is in Satya Yuga, long time ago. So it's not that the soul is a concept. It's not that we are meant to give up the body and anything that's to do with the body. No. But we have to live in a way where we begin to understand that actually I am not this body, but I will do my duty. At the same time, I will try to discover who I am, what is my eternal duty, and how, and who is that duty towards? These are fundamental questions.
Yeah, and the soul can't be abstract, because if you take a dead body and a living body, exactly the same. You have all the parts and everything, but you know something is missing in that dead body, which makes it, you know, it can't move around. So it can't be an abstract concept. It has to be something.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Very, very well put, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
She could have said it in 10 words, and I spent 2 hours saying the same thing.
but all of them have got meaning, and you know it has a lot of weightage to it. So I completely understand and appreciate both of your answers.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, actually. Very important, very important. Anybody else? How about Arvind? Anything you'd like to ask? Or
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, nothing from me. Okay.
how about your children? Very good.
Ask anything?
Okay.
How long did Krishna take to speak the Gita, Prabhu?
Oh, that's an interesting question. How long did it take? It was about, I think, 45 minutes. I heard it was 45 minutes. Might be wrong on that.
I've been trying to find that answer online or in scriptures, but I can't find it anywhere. I did ask another Prabhuji of mine who said an hour and a half. So it's...
Okay, it could well be, we'll try to find out, but he didn't actually speak it. He sung it. That's why it's called the Bhagavad Gita. Gita means song of God. So this is the beauty of Sanskrit as well. It's actually sung. It's very beautifully, rhythmically sung. So, Lena?
Oh, yes. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Lena.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, did you want to ask something or say something?
No, I didn't actually. I'm quite happy with your teachings.
Okay, thank you. Lena is the person who has these beautiful deities, and she always gives us darshan at the beginning. So thank you for that.
That's you're very welcome.
Actually, I wanted to ask Michael, because Michael will be new to this philosophy. Michael, do you have any questions, any comments?
No questions as such. Hello there. Yeah, no questions. It's just very nice to hear the children read and singing. I'm making my notes. So no, thank you very much.
Does it make sense what is being explained?
Yeah, a bit of sense. I mean, I go back and read after, so it's a bit by bit for me. You know,
Yeah.
I missed last week, so I've got to catch up on that. But no, I'm you know, I get little bits each week, but I make notes on, so it's all very helpful, you know, for me. So thank you.
Okay, last week we didn't have one anyway,
Okay.
because it was, we actually read the whole of the Bhagavad Gita on that day, because on that day it was spoken 5,000 years ago, if you know what I
The
mean.
anniversary. Well,
The anniversary, exactly right.
Well, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to everybody, and it's a pleasure.
Happy New Year. Thank you for joining, as always.
And very nice to hear the children speak, and also the singing is very, very enjoyable. And I've got my notes here, and I read them after. So thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate your effort and time. You
Oh, you're very welcome. Appreciate your efforts as well.
Yeah, this is our life. Oh, she's one of the ladies. Anybody? Sonia?
No, I'm fine. I'm just very happy to hear all this. And
Great.
thank you.
This
Thank
is
you.
only, yes, no, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your presence, actually. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, please, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Of course.
So Krishna sung the Gita, but someone wrote it down, didn't they? That's why we have it as a book right now.
Yeah.
So were the chapters allocated by Krishna himself or by the person who took note of everything?
Yes, it'll be, no, not by Krishna, because Krishna won't be saying, hey, chapter 1. This has been split up by Vyasdev. He split them up. Vyasdev is the literal incarnation of the Lord. So Vyasdev wasn't on the battlefield, but he is fully conscious, fully aware of everything that has been spoken, because he is actually another form of Krishna who comes in this world in order to write the Vedas. He even didn't write them. He dictated them to Ganesh, and Ganesh wrote them. Ganesh is the most amazing personality. And
Vyasa was around at that time.
yes, Vyasadev is the one who dictated to Ganesh, and that was how it was spoken or written down. Before Bhagavad Gita actually was not written down. It was always transmitted. Like Krishna said to Arjuna that I have spoken this Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan, the sun god, who spoke it to Ikshwaku. And in that way, it came down the tradition of the different saintly kings. But in due course of time, that tradition has broken. So what Vyasadev did was, when he came, he realized in Kali Yuga, we need to have in writing, because we can't, if we hear it, we can't remember it necessarily. But if it's written, then it's a better, easier way of transmission of the knowledge. Does that make sense, Shayan? Is that okay, Shayan?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. That's perfect.
Thank you for asking. So we have a question from Rita. Although we are not this body, we still have to look after this body in terms of our diet and exercise. Would it be better to say we should not focus our energy on this body, but on the soul? Well, we have to focus our energy on the body as well, because as you rightly say, if we don't look after it, if we fall ill because of wrong diet or no exercise, we're neglecting the body. And if we neglect the body because our consciousness is not so clear, when the body becomes disabled to do anything, then literally we don't do anything. The soul even goes completely dormant because our level of consciousness is not so high. So it is important to look after this body, but not to look after it to such an extent that we forget who we really are. It goes hand in hand. Both go together. Our swadharma and our dharma goes together. Rita, I can see you're unmuted. Can you would like to clarify your question?
Yeah, it's I like the way you answered it, but it's just sometimes, you know, when you come across it first, you know, it's quite a shock to the system that, you know, we're not this body, but hang on. Every day of our life, we see ourselves in the mirror and we say,
yes,
I like it, not like it, whatever. But
yes,
we do have to look after it, sort of, you know, in terms of, you know, our consciousness, as well as, you know, eating, drinking, exercises, and, you know, our mental health as well. But it's just, when somebody doesn't know the concept of the soul, it's quite a difficult thing. Not difficult now, because I've heard it for so many years now, but for the novice, it's hard to think, well, what are you talking about? Don't be silly.
yeah.
But it does make sense as you read it more and more and more. And
Yeah.
But it is a hard, I often think it should be reworded in some format to for a person who's not familiar with this type of concept.
So when you get to Golok, you could have a little chat with Krishna.
I wish.
You know that verse that you spoke?
Yeah, so many years ago. You reword it now, please.
But actually, the way he's worded it is actually perfect, because the problem is, especially in the West, is that, okay, they get it, actually, that we're not the body. They get it because the body's changing. But then, instead of the soul, as Krishna is explaining, usually it's the mind. I am the mind. That's where they get stuck. I am the mind, or I'm the intelligence. And to separate yourself from the mind intelligence, that's really challenging. We can do it because when as soon as we sit down to chant, Hare Krishna, the mind goes somewhere. And we can see the mind go, right? We see the mind go, we bring the mind back. So we know we're not the mind because we can control the mind. But that concept is very difficult in the West to understand, because there's no concept of controlling the mind. But in the East, through meditation, there is this control of the mind. And because there's control of the mind, we can understand, okay, the mind can be my friend or can be my enemy. So I think that's where in the West, the challenges are. But I find that with school children, they get it very easily, very, very easily. The soul is an abstract concept in one sense, because as you said, as Puna Mataji said, you know, hey, where's this concept? Where's this idea come from? It's come from Krishna. We don't know. Right? We accept it on face value because Krishna has said it. But how do we know? Right? How do we know for sure? We don't know. But because Krishna said it, we accept it at face value. Has anybody seen the soul? No, you can't. It's too small. So how do you know it's there? Because Krishna said it, we accept it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But then when you apply it to your life, it does make sense. And when you start practicing it, it even makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. It's 8:30. Really appreciate everybody's time, especially the young guys. I want to just get some feedback from you. And you can be as harsh as you like, okay? Was this boring? You give it to me if it was, okay? So
No, not at all, Prabhu.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
And if we can make it more exciting, you let us know. We could do a dance. What does your sister have to say?
I really enjoyed it because, and I really liked the way that you explained things. It was really clear to me what you were saying.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to have to pay you later. Anything you like. Arvind, the check is in the post.
I'll send you the bank details.
No, it's very kind of you. But if Sayan, because you represent the future, and the way you were singing yesterday, you've never been taught the harmonium, you've never been taught kirtan, but you were singing like a professional. I don't mean a professional in a bad way. I mean a devotee who's been in the Hare Krishna movement for years and years. I was so impressed. So you are our future, and we'd love to get to know you better, and also your sister as well, because the way she was reading is really, really very, very clear, very good reading.
Thank you.
Mhm. So join us. Tomorrow we have a children's class, but that's going to be, you probably too, Sayan, you're definitely too old. How old are you, young lady?
I'm 11.
11. Yeah, that's okay. If you want to join, you can. If you're free, tomorrow, Saturday, 6 o'clock, we have a Zoom session on children's classes. And actually, we're going to talk about the Gita again. And if you want, you can even explain some things if you want to, if you feel confident. I'll be really happy to hear what you have to say, if you want to.
I could do that.
Wow. Okay. I'll send you some notes to Dad.
Robert, you know what I can do? I can give you I'll put their numbers on the group if you can add them, or to you personally, and then that's fine if you send it to them directly.
You've got amazing kids there, by the way.
Thank you.
And what's your wife's name?
Minal.
Hare Krishna, Minal. Thank you so much. You are the backbone, of course, the real trainer, like Puna Mataji. She trains her kids so amazingly well. It's extraordinary, actually.